Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that every second passing is not just time flowing, it is your life flowing away. Think about that for a moment. Time is the one thing we cannot buy back, cannot trade, cannot store. Once gone, it is gone forever. And yet, how easily do we let it slip through our fingers as if it were an endless resource? Today we are going to explore how understanding the true value of time can transform the way you live, give meaning to every moment, and reshape your perception of existence itself. And I promise you, the last insight we will discuss will be the most powerful of them all, one that can completely change your relationship with life. Before we begin, if you find value in deep reflections like this, inspired by philosophers, psychologists, and great thinkers who dared to question the nature of human existence, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and share this video. I promise you, the revelations ahead may shift the way you see your past, your present, and your future. Time is not just a measure on a clock. Time is the very fabric of your life. Seneca, one of the most profound Stoic philosophers, wrote that it is not that we have little time, but that we waste much of it. He lived in a world without smartphones, without the endless distractions of modern life, yet he still saw how people squandered their days in pursuits that brought them no real fulfillment. Now imagine what he would say if he could see us today. We live in an era where distractions are not only abundant, they are designed to steal our attention. Hours vanish in meaningless scrolling, in conversations that go nowhere, in commitments we never truly wanted. Why do we do this? Because we rarely pause to ask ourselves, what is my time worth? Not in money, not in productivity, but in meaning. If we dared to answer honestly, many of us would feel the uncomfortable truth. We often trade the most precious resource we have for nothing in return. We act as if life is a rehearsal, as if the real thing will begin later, after we finish our current distractions. But this is the real thing. This moment right now is part of your only life. Psychologist Viktor Frankl, survivor of the concentration camps and author of Man's Search for Meaning, wrote that life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. And meaning, my friend, is not found in the abstract. It is created through the choices we make with the time we are given. When you truly grasp the value of time, you begin to measure life differently. You start to see that an hour spent in deep conversation with someone you love is worth infinitely more than an hour wasted on mindless entertainment. You realize that each day offers only a finite number of moments, and you cannot afford to give them away to things that leave you empty. Consider this. If you live to be 80 years old, you would have about 29,000 days in total. That might sound like a lot until you realize how many have already passed, how many were spent in ways you barely remember, and how quickly the remainder will disappear. This awareness is not meant to bring you fear, but clarity. The Stoics often practiced memento mori, the remembrance of death, not to depress themselves, but to sharpen their appreciation for life. The truth is, most people live as if they will never die, and then die having never truly lived. They put off dreams, delay conversations, postpone love, all for a tomorrow that may never come. We convince ourselves that we will begin living fully later, but later is a mirage. Later is where dreams go to die. If you could see your remaining time as a pile of gold coins, with each day costing you one, how differently would you spend it? Would you hand those coins over to trivial distractions, or would you invest them in moments that will echo in your memory for years to come? Seneca warns that while we guard our money fiercely, we hand out our time as if it were worthless. We set boundaries for our possessions, but not for our minutes. Yet time is infinitely more valuable than wealth. Because wealth can be regained, time cannot. The richest man in the world cannot buy back yesterday. The meaning of life is not something hidden in an ancient book or waiting to be discovered on a mountaintop. Meaning is built from the way you spend your hours. It is crafted from the small but intentional decisions you make every day to be present, to act with purpose, to connect deeply, to grow continuously. So I invite you to start reflecting now. How are you spending your time? Which moments of your day bring you closer to the life you want, and which steal you away from it? Are you living deliberately or drifting passively? In the next part, we will explore how to identify the invisible thieves of your time, the subtle habits and mindsets that quietly drain away your life without you even noticing. And when you recognize them, you will gain the power to reclaim your days and fill them with meaning. The most dangerous theft of time is not the dramatic crisis or the obvious distraction, but the slow erosion caused by small, unnoticed habits. Like water dripping on stone, these patterns carve away the hours of your life, until you look back and wonder where the days went. One of the greatest culprits is what psychologists call automatic living. You wake up, follow the same routines, respond to the same triggers, move through the day without true awareness. You might get through tasks and responsibilities, but in reality, you are not present, you are on autopilot. An autopilot is a silent thief. It robs you not only of time, but of the depth and richness of experience that makes life worth living. Seneca warns us that life is long enough if it is lived well. The problem is not its length, but our tendency to hand it away in fragments. We lose minutes here, hours there, days in the fog of mindless repetition. And this is not only a modern problem. In ancient Rome, as in our world, people filled their days with trivial pursuits, gossip, and endless preparation for a future that never truly arrived. The tools have changed, but the temptation remains the same. Ask yourself this: how many times do you reach for your phone without thinking? How many conversations do you have without really listening? How many hours dissolve into low-value activities that neither feed your mind nor nourish your soul? It is not about being productive every moment, it is about being intentional. If the minutes of your life are like currency, then every choice you make is a purchase. The question is, are you buying meaning or are you buying emptiness? One way to reclaim your time is through what the philosopher Aristotle called telesta, clear purpose or end toward which an action is directed. When you know your telos, you filter out the noise. Every activity either moves you closer to it or further away. Without this clarity, time slips through your hands because you cannot distinguish between what is essential and what is trivial. In our world, the illusion of busyness is one of the greatest threats to meaningful living. We mistake motion for progress, activity for achievement. But being busy is not the same as being alive. A person can fill every hour with meetings, messages, errands, and still feel a deep hollowness at the end of the day. Busyness is often a mask we wear to avoid confronting the uncomfortable truth that we may not know what truly matters to us. The Stoics would remind us to measure our days by depth, not length. Marcus Aurelius, another great Stoic, wrote in his Meditations that you could leave life right now, let that determine what you do, say, and think. This was not a call to fear, but a call to presence. It was an invitation to live each day as if it were a complete life in itself, not a waiting room for some grander future. But living with this awareness requires a kind of courage. Because once you see the value of time, you can no longer pretend that your distractions are harmless. You have to face the reality that some of the things you give your time to, and perhaps some of the people, do not belong in the life you truly want. This is where many falter. The moment you begin to guard your time, you will meet resistance. People will expect the old version of youth, the one who said yes to everything, the one who was always available, the one who gave away hours freely. Saying no becomes an act of self-respect, but also an act of defiance against a culture that glorifies constant availability. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, known for his work on flow, discovered that people are most fulfilled when they are deeply engaged in activities that challenge and absorb them. Yet reaching this state requires uninterrupted stretches of focused time, something we rarely protect in our lives. We allow constant interruptions to fracture our attention, unaware that every break in focus costs more time than we realize. If you could see a chart of your life showing where your time truly goes, would you feel proud or regretful? Would you see days filled with creation, connection, and learning, or a landscape of lost hours buried under trivialities? Reclaiming your time begins with awareness. For the next week, observe yourself, not to judge, but to notice. Notice when you are fully alive and when you are merely existing. Notice the activities that leave you with energy versus those that leave you drained. You will likely find that the greatest joys require little in the way of resources, but much in the way of presence. In the next part, we will dive into the art of time alignment, how to bring your daily actions into harmony with your deepest values. Because once your time and your values align, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. And this, more than anything else, is the foundation for a meaningful life. To align your time with your values, you must first uncover what those values truly are. This sounds simple, but for many people it is one of the most difficult steps. Our lives are crowded with inherited expectations from family, from society, from our younger selves. We often confuse these inherited scripts with our own inner truth. But until you separate what is truly yours from what was given to you, your time will never fully be your own. Seneca would tell us to examine our lives as if we were an impartial observer. Stand back and watch yourself. What patterns emerge? Where do your days actually go? Do your choices reflect the person you want to become, or do they simply maintain the person you have been? The philosopher Socrates famously declared that the unexamined life is not worth living. This was not a call to relentless self-criticism, but to deep, honest inquiry. An examined life is one where your time is not scattered in all directions, but guided by an internal compass. That compass is built from your values. Once you know your values, every decision about time becomes clearer. If you value creativity, you will notice when you are neglecting it. If you value health, you will notice when you trade rest for meaningless activity. If you value relationships, you will see when they are being pushed aside by busyness disguised as importance. But here is where the challenge begins. Alignment requires sacrifice. You cannot live a life of meaning and still say yes to every demand placed upon you. Every hour you spend is an hour you cannot spend elsewhere, and saying yes to one thing is saying no to another. The question is, which no are you willing to live with? In psychology, there is a principle called opportunity cost. It reminds us that every choice has a hidden cost, the value of what we give up. When it comes to time, this cost is often invisible until it is too late. You may not notice the opportunities you lose when you spend an evening lost in distractions, but they are realer conversation you could have had, a skill you could have developed, a memory you could have created. The Stoics saw life as a work of art. Every day was another stroke of the brush. If you waste too many strokes on random marks, the final painting will lack coherence. But if each stroke is deliberate, guided by vision, the result will be something you are proud to leave behind, to live in alignment with your values. You must protect your time as you would protect a rare and precious treasure. This means setting boundaries, not as walls to keep life out, but as walls to keep your purpose in. One way to do this is through the practice of essentialism, a philosophy popularized by Greg McKeown. The idea is to focus on the few things that truly matter and let go of the rest. This is not about doing less for the sake of laziness, but about doing less so that you can give more of yourself to what really counts. Imagine your life as a garden. Every plant requires water, sunlight, and care. But if you plant too many, your resources will be spread so thin that none of them will thrive. The same is true with your commitments. The more you scatter your time, the less you nourish any single part of your life. This is why reflection is so important. Regularly ask yourself, does this activity reflect my highest values? Does it contribute to the life I want to build? If the answer is no, you must have the courage to let it go, even if it is comfortable, even if it pleases others. Because every moment you spend out of alignment is a moment you cannot get back. The poet Mary Oliver once asked, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" It is a question that cuts through every excuse. Your life is not a rehearsal, and your time is not renewable. What you choose to do with it will become the story you leave behind. Once your values and your time are aligned, something powerful happens. You begin to live in what some psychologists call integrity of self, a state where your actions match your beliefs. This creates not only greater meaning, but also greater peace. You stop feeling pulled in opposite directions, because your life moves as one unified whole. In this state, even challenges and difficulties gain meaning. You see them not as interruptions, but as part of the path you have chosen. And this is when you start to grasp the truth. Time is not just about how long you live, but about how fully you live. In the final part, we will uncover the most powerful insight of all, the one that can dissolve fear, deepen your presence, and give every moment of your life a clarity you have never known before. It is the realization that can make each day, no matter how ordinary, feel extraordinary. There is a reason I said at the beginning that the last insight would be the most powerful, because it is one thing to understand the value of time in theory, and another to live it in every breath. And this final truth is not about time management, productivity, or even setting priorities. It is about shifting your relationship with time itself. The most profound realization you can have is this: you never truly have time, you only ever experience it in the present moment. The past is memory, the future is imagination. Both are shadows. The present is the only reality where life exists. This may sound simple, but consider how often we live elsewhere. We replay conversations from years ago, carrying regrets like heavy stones. Or we leap ahead into imagined futures, worrying over events that may never happen. In both cases, we abandon the only place where we can truly live now. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught that we should not waste our energy on what is beyond our control. And nothing is more beyond our control than the past and the future. We cannot rewrite yesterday. We cannot guarantee tomorrow. But we can choose how we live today. That choice is everything. When you fully inhabit the present, something extraordinary happens. Time feels richer, slower, fuller. A simple conversation becomes alive with detail, the warmth in someone's voice, the light in their eyes. A walk in the park becomes a symphony of sensations, the crunch of leaves beneath your feet, the scent of the air, the shifting patterns of clouds overhead. Living in the present does not mean ignoring the past or neglecting the future. It means letting them serve their proper purpose. The past is a teacher, the future is a guide, but that present is life itself, and if you miss it, you miss everything. Seneca wrote that life is long enough if you know how to use it. And the greatest use of life is not to chase more time, but to be fully alive in the time you already have. You will never reach a perfect moment where the noise stops, the chaos settles, and you are finally free to live. That freedom must be claimed now, even in the middle of imperfection. This awareness has another gift: it dissolves the fear of endings. When you understand that each moment is complete in itself, you stop clinging to the idea that more is always better. You see that the quality of your life is not measured by its length, but by its depth. A single day lived with full presence can contain more life than years lived half aware. Philosopher Alan Watts once compared life to music. The point of music is not to get to the end of the song, but to enjoy every note along the way. In the same way, the point of life is not to reach some final destination, but to experience the journey in its fullness. When you grasp this, you stop rushing, you stop postponing, and you begin to live now. So what would it mean for you to live today as if it were both your first and your last? Not in a frantic, desperate way, but with a sense of reverence. You would likely choose your words more carefully, listen more deeply, savor more fully. You would notice the moments you usually overlook. You would treat your time not as something to be spent carelessly, but as a sacred resource to be honored. And this is the ultimate meaning of understanding the value of time. It is not about squeezing more into your day, but about allowing more of your day to enter into you. It is about being fully awake to the life you already have. If you take nothing else from these reflections, take this: your time is your life, and your life is now. Guard it, cherish it, live it, because one day, sooner than you think, you will look back and see not just how much time you had, but how you chose to spend it. In the end, the people who live with meaning are not those who had the most years, but those who made their years count. And the way to make your years count is simple. Live this moment as if it matters more than any other, because it does. So as we part, I leave you with Seneca's timeless reminder. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Do not waste yours. Let today be the day you begin to truly live. And perhaps the greatest tragedy is not that we die, but there's so many of us never truly live while we are here. We drift, we postpone, we numb ourselves with distractions, telling ourselves there will be time later, but later is not promised. Later is an illusion we use to escape the truth. All we ever have is now. Imagine if you could see a countdown clock above your head showing exactly how many days you had left. How differently would you live? Who would you forgive? What conversations would you finally have? What dreams would you stop postponing? You do not need to see that clock to know it exists. The sand is already falling in the hourglass, whether you look at it or not. The moment you accept this, life changes. Your priorities sharpen. You stop wasting words. You choose experiences over possessions, connection over comparison, growth over comfort. you realize that the greatest wealth is not money but moments. The richest person is not the one with the most to their name, but the one who has lived the most, loved the most fiercely, and been most present for the miracle of their own existence. So let this be your turning point, not tomorrow, not next week. Now, decide that your time is too valuable to be given to anything unworthy of it. Decide that every day will hold at least one moment of pure presence, one act of intentional love, one choice that reflects who you truly are. Because when you reach the final moments of your life, you will not be wishing for more time to scroll, more time to worry, more time to please strangers. You will wish for more time with the people and passions that made you feel alive. And the only way to have that wish granted is to give it to yourself today. Seneca's wisdom is not a relic of the past. It is a call to action for your present. Hear it, answer it, live it. Because when you truly grasp the value of time, life gains not only meaning, but it gains beauty, urgency, and depth beyond anything you have ever known. And in that moment, you will no longer fear the end, because you will know you have lived. Thanks.